There is more smoke to the Kliff Kingsbury rumors connecting him to the Chicago Bears. We'll talk about that at the top of today's edition of the Commanders Report. Also, a top NFL draft prospect at the wide receiver position indicates that he wants to play for the Washington Commanders when he's drafted next spring. And we'll finish up today's show with a key Commanders starting player that was back at practice after a recent injury. I'll reveal who that is at the end of today's show, so make sure you guys stick around. But before we get into today's content, we are in the middle of a sub-battle with our frenemies at the Cowboys Report and Tom Downey. And right now we're currently leading them in new subs this week by just 3. And I know Tom Downey is showing these numbers on his channel today saying, we need to catch up. We're only 3 behind the Commanders Report. So if you're new to this channel, you want Commanders news updates every single day, make sure you guys click that subscribe button right now so the Cowboys Report can't catch us by the end of the week. Okay, now let's get into the news today and the rumors surrounding Kliff Kingsbury. Of course, Kliff has done an excellent job here in Washington cultivating that rookie talent in Jayden Daniels here in this offense. And Jeremy Fowler from ESPN says that Kliff is expected to interview for the Bears head coaching job once they eventually start these interviews here during playoff time. This is what Fowler had to say connecting Kliff to Chicago. I expect Kingsbury to interview there. As was told to me, most or all the names that have been linked to the Bears are people Chicago would like to interview. Observers believe experience will be a key factor in the hiring process, and Kingsbury has experience coupled with quarterback cachet. Kingsbury will be selective, I'm told. He's still getting paid head coach money from Arizona and gets to coach Daniels on a Washington team that should be even better next season. I don't think he's ironing shirts for job interviews just yet. But then Fowler also said, keep your eye on Kliff Kingsbury potentially getting an interview with the New York Jets. Now, of course, the Jets fired Robert Saleh earlier this year, and he used to play for the New York Jets as well, in case you didn't know that. Kind of a little bit of history there from Kliff Kingsbury. But this is what Fowler had to say about the potential of Kingsbury getting an interview for the Jets job. Keep in mind, Kingsbury was down the road with the Jets in 2019 before he took the Arizona job, so New York could double back with him. So listen, man, when it comes to, and that's not all, guys, when it comes to Chicago Bears rumors, Caleb Williams, their number 1 overall draft pick from this last spring, who also worked with Kingsbury at USC. He was his quarterback's coach there in his final season with the Trojans. He spoke very glowingly about Kliff Kingsbury when he was asked about him in his early week press conference this week in Chicago. This is what Caleb had to say about his connection with Kliff. I know he loves football. I know he wants to win. He's a competitor, and so in many different aspects that I was just speaking of, I've been around him. So I would say that being around him, knowing him, asking him questions and things like that, I think obviously if he was here, I'd probably have more to say. But I think he fits a bunch of those qualities that I said. A coach that challenges myself, whether it's an offensive coordinator or a head coach, and also challenges us as players. Whether it's on the field or character, doesn't matter. Just a coach that challenges us, a man of his word. Now, listen, man, I think that if you could sit Caleb Williams down and say, who would be the guy that you would be interested in? Maybe he would bring up Ben Johnson as well, but I think maybe the number 1 choice on his list would be Kliff Kingsbury. Caleb's seen what Kliff has been able to do with Jayden Daniels this year, and he probably watches that offensive film that we have here in Washington, and he's like, you know what, that's an offense that I would feel super, super comfortable in. So if you want to make Caleb Williams as comfortable as possible if you're the Chicago Bears, you got to consider Kliff Kingsbury, especially if he has a really good interview. But if I was a betting man right now, I think that right now Ben Johnson wants to go to Chicago, and I think if you are the Bears and you have a guy in your sights like Ben Johnson, who's one of the most hyped up head coaching candidates of the last decade, up there with like Andy Reid and Kyle Shanahan, and you have a guy like this in your sights and he wants to come coach your organization, you got to pull the trigger on that, man, especially if you're a team like the Bears and you can poach somebody from a division rival in the Detroit Lions and take away their stud offensive play caller. I think that's something that the Bears, if I were them, I would pull the trigger on and not Kliff Kingsbury, but I guess we'll see how this process all plays out. And then, when it comes to the Jets job, Fowler says watch out for that, and I wouldn't personally count that out either. If I was Woody Johnson, if I were the Jets and I was looking to maybe pick up maybe a Kyler Murray or something, something along those lines, maybe trade for him and then bring in a guy like Kliff Kingsbury that can get a really nice offense going with his skill set. That's something that I would certainly consider if I were in East Rutherford right now. Plus, he's a former quarterback in the organization, so he definitely has ties to that football team. So look out for Kliff to get some head coaching interviews and potentially even land a job. If you're wondering, my list of the potential offensive coordinator candidates if Kliff Kingsbury leaves, I actually did a video a couple weeks back breaking down the top offensive coordinator candidates and targets for the Washington Commanders if they move off of Kliff. Yes, Lincoln Riley is on that list, but that's the only spoiler I'm going to give you guys. So predict it for me down there in the comment section. Will Kliff Kingsbury be back with the Washington Commanders next season? Give me a yes or no down there in the comment section. For me personally, if I have to guess right now, I would say yes, he's back next season, but it's probably going to be his last year in Washington in 2025. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show, so YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds, and when that happens, take advantage of that time by giving me a yes or a no. And with that, let's have a word from our sponsor today at PrizePicks. And PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action all on your phone this football season. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more than or less than on at least 2 player stat projections for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Sign up today and get $50 instantly, and you play just $5 when you use promo code CLNS. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday, where every Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineup. So you guys can see here that it's more than just pro football, guys. College football is also on PrizePicks. And here for the Notre Dame-Georgia game this afternoon, I have the more on rushing yards for Gunnar Stockton, the freshman quarterback from Georgia. And I'm taking the more on rushing yards for Jeremiah Love, my man, from the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. So download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup when you use code CLNS. That's $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup when you download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS. PrizePicks, run your game. So could we see a new dynamic duo here with the burgundy and gold here between quarterback and wide receiver? Missouri wide receiver and top NFL draft prospect Luther Burden III indicated on his Instagram that he would like to play with Jayden Daniels right here with the Washington Commanders. So this was a post that Jayden Daniels put out earlier this week, and then Luther Burden III commented under it saying, "Let's do it," with a little symbol right there, the little OK symbol. And you know what, man? I would absolutely love the trio of Jayden Daniels mixed with the veteran presence of Terry McLaurin, probably on a new contract next year, and then or at least he gets extended next offseason, and then Luther Burden III coming in as that young gun, future #1 receiver. I mean, that would just be a trio made in heaven, and it would be disgusting, man. That would be kind of along the lines of like a Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins almost type of trio right there. Honestly, it might even be better because of Jayden's ability to run the football as well. I think Luther Burden is an excellent player, and I would love to bring him here to Washington, but you would probably have to trade up for him. I just don't think, with the Commanders likely drafting in the 20s this year, I just don't know how likely it is that Burden and a receiver as talented as him is going to fall all the way down to the 20s. I think if Washington wants him, they're going to have to trade up for him. And honestly, I'm not sure with all the offensive line issues that they're going to have to address this offseason, with the cornerback issues they're going to have to address in this year's draft. I'm just not sure if the Commanders are going to feel comfortable trading up for a receiver of Luther Burden III's talents when they already have a really talented #1 receiver in Terry McLaurin in their building. And my guess is, guys, is that they do draft a wide receiver within the first 2 days of the draft. So that's the first 3 rounds of the 2025 NFL draft. But I think they're going to take their time and they're going to be patient, allowing one to fall to them. Not necessarily look to trade up for a guy like Luther Burden III. Somebody that I mentioned on a previous video this week, and the more I think about it, the more I like it, is I like the Kyren Lacy connection here in Washington. I think that he will be available when the Washington Commanders end up selecting in the first round and maybe even in the second round, depending on how Lacy's draft process goes. But he has chemistry with Jayden Daniels, who's a big part of that offense during Daniels' Heisman campaign there with the LSU Tigers. He had another really, really good season this year with Garrett Nussmeier throwing him the football. So I think Kyren Lacy, super talented player. If you're looking to add another young receiver talent early in this year's NFL draft, I would keep my eye on Kyren Lacy. So pick one for me down there in the comment section. If you are Adam Peters and you had the choice between trading up for Luther Burden III and staying put for Kyren Lacy, which one are you taking? Type LB for trading up for Luther Burden, or if you're staying put for Kyren Lacy, type KL down there in the comments section. Commanders did get some good news on the injury front today as Austin Ekeler and his 21-day practice window to return from IR was open. He returned to practice after really suffering that nasty concussion after the Dallas Cowboys game. Now, in terms of missing Ekeler, the Commanders are undefeated since he got injured. Now, I'm not saying that him getting injured was a good thing for the Washington Commanders, and I would certainly think this team is more dangerous with him, both as a kickoff return man and in the rotation as a running back. But personally, guys, I think that I would sit Austin Ekeler another week. Just make sure that his head is okay. Not risk any more, concussions or any other injuries heading into the postseason. I would say, you know what, Austin, get yourself warmed up here. Let's practice you this week, but we're going to sit you for the season finale. I mean, I trust Brian Robinson Jr. and Chris Rodriguez Jr., even Jeremy McNichols enough to get the job done this week, and where I feel comfortable sitting Austin Ekeler and saving him for the postseason. Now, before I go here, some more good news here. The Pro Bowl rosters were announced today, and the Commanders have 2 Pro Bowlers this year, and it's the first quarterback and wide receiver duo to be named Pro Bowlers since 1991. All right, so Jayden Daniels, he was voted the NFC starting quarterback on the NFC side, and then also Terry McLaurin was listed as a wide receiver on the NFC side as well. Now, they don't play an actual Pro Bowl game anymore. It's called the Pro Bowl Games or whatever it is now, so you won't be seeing Jayden be named technically NFC starting quarterback, but he was number 1 in the voting. So congratulations to both of these guys. But I do want to kind of, air out my grievances a little bit here because that Frankie Louvu deserved to get in as well, and he did not. I think that you guys you hear me all season long. I keep saying every single week, when I go through my takeaways every single game, Frankie Louvu's on there, and it seems like he always makes a big impact. Whether it's a win or a loss, he's always making a big impact. He's flying around. He's been such a versatile piece in Washington's defense. He's one of the main reasons why, this defense hasn't been one of the worst in football, is because this guy has really elevated this group quite a bit. So I was a little bit disappointed to see that he wasn't on the Pro Bowl roster, but hopefully he can get an all-pro selection here in the coming days. Now make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. I really do appreciate all of your guys' support. We got more stuff coming up later in the week, including my preview for Washington Commanders versus Dallas Cowboys coming out tomorrow. So make sure you click that subscribe button to never miss that video and never miss any of our content here from the Commanders Report.